focus better with music, and I see that. And as long as you're being respectful enough that you have at least one ear kind of listening, I haven't made a big deal about it. But if this looks like our test tomorrow, this should be kind of scary to some of us, right? Which is why we started it yesterday, and why I gave some hints to you yesterday, and why we're going to be very, very, very particular as we go over it today. So make sure with the practice test, if it looks like tomorrow's test, we need to make sure that we know what's going on. True? So if you need to get out a highlighter, get out a highlighter. If you need to grab out a colored pen to write notes to yourself, do that. If you want to grab out a colored pen to circle mistakes that you might have made on the problems you practiced, do that. But we're going to go over the answers now to the practice test. Thank you, Jonathan. We're going to go over answers now to the practice test. And then I'm going to go ahead and post in Google Classroom like I did last time. I'm going to post the answer key online, okay? So some of you guys tonight could even use the answer key to study from, etc., etc. And then we'll all be handing in the practice test tomorrow as a final Chapter 9 assignment as you get ready to take the test. Now tomorrow, are you going to want a calculator? The answer is yes. And you're going to want a calculator that you know how to use. And that you can put a square root in and get a decimal, because there are going to be nearest tenths, nearest hundredths. Does that make sense? Okay, so you make sure that you have a calculator ready that you're able to use. I do have my box of calculators, but remember, some of them are kind of messed up. Besides that, you just want a cover sheet, a pencil that works, and then your practice test to turn in. Now, right before I start going over all the answers, I do have the quizzes of those of you that took it before today, all graded and ready to go. Why am I going to make sure to hand them out right now? Because there's a quiz on 9-1, so you can see what mistakes you made on 9-1 as we go over the 9-1 practice problems. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, it's in alphabetical order, so when you hear names, just come on up. If you have both quizzes, it's stapled and they're both there. If you just have one quiz, that's because you just took the other one with me, and it can be graded by the end of the day if you wanted to study more. Max, come on down. Kayla, here you go. Brooke, just come towards me. Andrew Casper, OC Con again?
Yeah.
Oh, here's that stuff. Adrian, did you get him a practice test, okay? Did you get Andrew a practice test? Hannah, come on down. Alexis, Armando. Joseph, come on down. Sky. Did I just do the wrong one? I don't know. We switched it. Alexis, there you go. Everest, come on down. Alyssa. Melanie. These are on RunWeb, kiddos. Levi. We're just using them now to study and find our mistakes. Sean. Isaiah. Jerry. Trey. Sunny. Danny, Adrian, Andrew Swenson, Jeremy, Caleb, and Jonathan. Okay, so only Andrew Casper is gone today. So, do you guys have the 9-1 quiz out? Do you have it in front of you? Maybe you aced it. Maybe you didn't have a clue, and maybe you were somewhere in between. The question isn't so much necessarily how you did there. Let's peek and make sure you know how to do it now. But on the quiz, you can see mistakes that you naturally make on your own. So it's something for you to be like, wait a minute, do I know how to do them now? So up here on the screen. Up here on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and grab the yellow marker just because we did a lot of red yesterday to do the answers. Up here on the screen, we attached, and maybe the quiz had a split apart one too. I'm pretty sure it did, and I think it was number 2. Split apart. Are we allowed to split apart fractions of square roots? Yes. So you could have done an x squared over a 4. Question, what happens whenever you have a squared with a radical? But wait a minute, doesn't 4 break down to be a perfect square also? So not only do you get, well, there's a negative on the outside, not only, and if you want to be super snazzy, you could put an absolute value around it. If you want to be super snazzy. But to be honest, in section 9.1, we hadn't learned that yet. So we just would have crossed out and written the x. But then this guy, since 4 is 2 squared, we can go ahead and take that square root. You guys will have your calculators also, so you can put square root of 4 in your calculator. Hopefully it'll give you 2. So the final answer to number 1 was negative x over 2. Was negative x over 2. Canceling out the squared with the square root of the first one. And then 4 is 2 squared. That cancels out a squared with a square root also. And if you need to see that, remember, we could rewrite 4 as square root of 2 squared, which is why just a 2 remains. For number 2, though, it wasn't split apart. It was rationalized. It had a denominator of w that needed to be simplified away. The only way to do that is to bring in kind of out of nowhere, but that's why we study and that's why we memorize different problems like this. I don't know why it got all weird. But so that we know what to do. Because rationalizing says you need to multiply top and bottom by the square root. So as we come across, we got 4 root w over root w squared. When they both have a radical, we can join them together. I think your quiz might have had one of these too. But what happens when we have a square root of a squared again? Yeah, we were rationalizing. We get to cross it out. And so our final answer is just, even though it looks funny, 4 root w all over w. Even though it looks funny, the square root's gone. And that's exactly what we needed for simplest form. Maybe you could look at your quiz and maybe there's one of them on there that also needed to be rationalized by just multiplying top and bottom. Moving on to number 3. We kind of showed work up here about what to do if we have addition or subtraction. We have to multiply by what we call the conjugate. And so the conjugate for number 3 would be 3 plus rad 6. So we need to multiply both top and bottom of this guy. We need to multiply both top and bottom by that conjugate, 3 plus rad 6. And so when we go ahead and do that work, this is going to look a little messy if I keep on going in yellow. So let me go ahead and transition to red. We're going to distribute, and 2 times 3 is 6. We're going to go over an addition sign. 2 does not have a radical, so he's kind of stuck on the outside, sadly. But that's just multiplying the 2 numerators together. And the denominator, we're going to end up with 3 times 3 is 9. When we FOIL, the difference of squares, and the outer and the inner would cancel out, and we would end up with minus square root of 6 squared. Once again, what happens whenever we have a radical in the square? It cancels out. And so then I'm almost done. All I have to do is nothing on top because they're not like terms. This guy has a radical 6 and the other guy doesn't. They're not like. But on the bottom, I can do 9 minus 6, which is 3. And that's where we get our final answer of 6 plus 2 radical 6 all over 3. That one got kind of messed up with my arrows. And then we end up with our 4 rad w over w. All right, but number 4, we needed to go ahead and remember 2 things. On number 4, we needed to remember both splitting up. Breaking apart. Sorry, that's 72. He's way too big. Breaking apart and combining my terms. Did anybody figure out when they were playing with this on their own what goes into 72? Yeah, 9 and 8. Wait a minute, what goes into 8? Why did I do that? Doesn't 9 have a good square root? 2 doesn't, but 4 does. Yeah, so I can break up that 72 to say your root 9 times root 2 times root 4. So all I've done so far is taken this root 72 and split him up into his different pieces. And then, Max, you were the one saying it. Square root of 9 is 3, because 3 squared cancels out the radical. Square root of 2, well, he's stuck, but wait a minute, square root of 4 is also good. So actually what we end up getting to do with that square root of 72 is going ahead and rewriting him as Everyone without a radical gets to join forces. Everyone with a radical joins forces. When we simplify, some things we aren't changing until it's time, but we kept on tackling that square root of 72. Kept on going with that square root of 72. Finally got what square root of 72 was simplified. Why did I say combine like terms? What can we do right now? Yeah, 6 of these minus 3 of these. And here's a mistake a lot of people are going to make tomorrow. If I have 6 root 2's minus 3 root 2's, how many root 2's do I have?
2, 4, 9.
If I have 6 of them, take away 3 of them, how many do I have left?
3.
You all get a lot, like you get really confused with the root 2, but it's just like an x. 6x minus 3x, 6 rad 2 minus 3 rad 2. There are 3 of them left. A lot of us want to do crazy stuff with this. It's just 6 of them, take away 3 of them, it's 3 of them. But don't we still have a rad 3? If it helps, we can put that 1 in front. And then anyone with a radical joins forces. Anyone without a radical doesn't. Whenever we're multiplying or dividing, anybody with a radical gets to multiply together. Anybody without also gets to multiply together. So 3 times 1 is 3, and root 3 times root 6, or sorry, root 3 times root 2 is root 6. Now guys, the one that I post online isn't going to be the messy smartboard version. It's going to be more my version of writing it out. But why on earth did I just spend so much time on only one section on the test? 9-1, 9-3, 9-4, 9-5. There are 4 different sections tomorrow. What's the oldest one?
9-1.
Yeah. And it was the quiz that was, to be honest, the roughest. So I took some time on 9-1. On the other ones, I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys the answers for right now, unless there's a problem that someone wants me to slow down on. Remember, all the answers will be posted with my work shown. Maybe not all the notes, but my work shown on Google Classroom tonight. But let me go ahead and at least get the answers filled in for the other ones so you guys know if you're good or bad and whether or not you want to ask a question. Is that cool? Okay, so for 5A, you're just trying to figure out how many solutions. Since the squared equals a positive, this will be 2 solutions based on our little clues up here. Since the squared equals a negative, this will be no solutions. And guys, when will there just be 1 solution?
0.
Got it. This one down here, if you're solving using square roots, you would have added the 24 to get 64, and your 2 answers come from the square root of 64, both a positive 8 and a negative 8. This one, instead of adding first like you did over here, before putting in the square root, for number 7, you should have done the square root right away because we have to get rid of that squared. It's ready to go. It's ready to be square rooted. And so this one, if you would have square rooted, you would have gotten 3 plus 1 is plus or minus 7. 3. And then negative 7 would have given me negative 8 over 3. See, I did it in my head. Yeah, we can do number 7. He was a tricky one. So that squared goes away, but we have to slow it down, right? And remember, when we slow it down, square root of 49 is 7. When we're slowing it down, remember that we have both the positive option or the, I did do bad mental math. It was 2. Good job, guys. Or the negative one. So, if I subtract 1, what do I get? Equals 6. And then when I divide by 3, why was everyone right when they said 2? Because it is 2. But when I come over here and I subtract 1, now all of a sudden it's negative 8 is 3x. So this one's not as pretty, but that's okay. We shouldn't be scared of fractions. We just write them and say, whatever, it's right. And so that's where we got the negative 8/3, and then I just did bad mental math when I was going super fast. Section 9.4 had to do with completing the square, which a lot of you love doing the square part, or at least you somewhat get doing the square part. So answers for the square part, let's see if you guys got the 2x and the 2x multiplying to be 4. However, do you guys see the blank that said factors? Were you able to pull out that it was x plus 2 times x plus 2? Or this one, x squared minus 5x and minus 5x. Did you multiply to get 25, but were you able to pull out the factors to know that it was x minus 5 squared? But when you come down here, if you take a piece to complete the square with, you're going to get or fill in a box that you don't have up above. And so we take that number and we add it to both sides. And when we add it to both sides, one side just gets a nice, perfect polynomial that will factor the way we want it. The other side will get a number. But now, guys, this will look a lot like the problem that you guys just asked me to do for section 9.3. It will look a lot like the problem you just asked me to do for section 9.3. Now, remember, the answers will be on Google Classroom, because as you can tell, we're kind of running out of room, or out of time, I should say. What's the one section we didn't get to? Oh, but haven't we just practiced that formula? To the point that people taking the quiz today were like, is this a formula? And I was like, oh, sorry, no, it was an old quiz. So, where are the answers? Where can you find them? If you can't find them on Google Classroom, email me and be like, can I have the answers? And I'll email you the answers. Study this practice test tonight. How much does it look like the test tomorrow? A lot. If you need me, come find me. For makeup work, late work, etc. But really, our main focus today should be the